What typically happens in these cases is that everyone sort of knows that there is a potential crisis waiting to happen. And then there's some kind of triggering incident. In the case of Germany, it was actually the principal of an academy in Berlin run by the Jesuits, that's a religious order in the church, who decided to go public with the fact that a few former students had come forward to allege abuse. He wanted to handle it in a transparent way. That revelation then sort of set fire to the situation, and now what we have is a national scandal engulfing Germany that is in many ways very familiar with the pattern of earlier scandals in other places such as the United States. Obviously, the new element in the German storyline, Ali, is of course this question of the Pope's own role as a diocesan bishop in the late 70s and early 80s.
Well, this is where the question comes in, because maybe I didn't follow this up and understand whether something wasn't made very clear, certainly after we went through this in the United States, and that is the similarities are that someone was found to have done something inappropriate and was shuffled about or somehow protected, moved to another place, may have then gone back into getting involved in inappropriate activities. Is there something clear? Has the Catholic Church made it clear as to what you're supposed to do if you're in charge of a diocese or a church and you find out there's a priest who has been involved in pedophilia or involved in sexual activity?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, today, zero tolerance is the official policy of the Catholic Church, and it is one that has been completely embraced by Pope Benedict XVI. I think today it is abundantly clear that if a Catholic priest abuses someone sexually, that priest is going to be immediately disciplined inside the church. That is, he will be yanked out of ministry and potentially kicked out of the priesthood. He will also be immediately reported, either by the church itself or by the victims, if it's their choice, to the police, and he will have to suffer the criminal consequences of his actions. And I think that actually has been clear for some time. I think the problem here is that when we talk about the sex abuse crisis, Ali, there are really two interconnected problems. There's the problem of priests who abused, and there's the problem of bishops who failed to clean it up, who should have known better and who failed to act. I think most people would give the Church and the Pope himself high marks on that first problem. I think it's the second problem where people still have questions about the Church's response.
So ultimately, and again, you did point out that this is something that the current Pope may have been involved in the 70s and 80s. Does the Vatican successfully deflect this or solve it, or does this scandal really reach into the Vatican and into the Pope's chambers and really start to affect how people see him?
Well, I think, Ali, the answer to that will depend upon where this story goes in the next few days and in the weeks to come. I mean, if this is an isolated case, one guy who was apparently reassigned by someone lower down the food chain than then Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger, now Benedict XVI, that's one thing. But if we've learned anything from the trajectory of this crisis in other parts of the world, usually one report, one allegation, one case leads to others. If what emerges is that there was a pattern in Munich while Cardinal Ratzinger was there of these guys being shuffled around, then it becomes a problem in this sense. The question that fair-minded people would ask is, can the Pope credibly ride herd on bishops who failed to respond to this crisis if it turns out that he had the same problem himself when he was a diocesan bishop 30 years ago? And whether that's the turn this story takes is going to depend upon what we learn in the days to come about what the record in Munich during those 5 years actually was.